Hello traders, this is a trade recap for July 26th. Today was FOMC and meta earnings after hours. There were 4 trades that I took and I want to quickly go over all of them. I'm not going to do a lot of context setting here. I just want to review and talk about a couple of setups, strictly speaking, in terms of the order flow. The first trade is at 7 where are we at here? 7:23 a.m. 7:23 a.m. Pacific time, and just after the open, a lot of chop and consolidation. We had a effort by sellers to bring price down, and it was immediately ripped back up by buyers. Some very aggressive buying coming off of the lows. I like that we see a little bit of an absorption into this 85 area, and immediately the bid is reloaded there. So this is exactly the kind of setup that I like to take. So after I see this kind of strength, I typically will wait until I get a pullback to retest the area. So this was kind of the top end of my range here that I was interested in, and then this is the bottom end of the range down here, and you can see that I actually ended up taking a small position even before this move occurred, but this made me have even higher conviction in the trade. And this is a great example that, it's trading. It doesn't always work out. In fact, it doesn't have to work out even half the time for you to still be profitable. So I ended up scaling in a couple more times as we dipped into this area, and price just continued to wane and sell off. And so I took my loss on this one and cut that trade there. No big deal, because you can't let that get to your head or anything. You just got to say that didn't work out. Let's find another setup. I really believed in what I was seeing here. That is exactly the kind of setup I like to take. And this is a great example. Just what are we about in 45 minutes later, we sell down to another area of interest, this 4580 level. We get some higher volume activity, some large selling at the lows, and then we get some buying activity that drives price back up. This is kind of it could be considered more of like a trapped seller setup here. We see a retest of this region and then more strong buying. So I really like to see that reaction. After I saw this, I'd painted this pink box. This immediately became my area of interest. And I waited for price to return to that area. As soon as we dipped down in, I started to scale in. I didn't scale in immediately with the full position because of the bearish nature of the price action on the day. We were seeing some consistent selling, bringing us lower and lower there. However, after my initial scale, price tested a little bit lower, and then I started to see this accumulation happen here. And as soon as this seller came in, and then I saw strong buying one tick higher, I immediately added 2 more contracts to the position, and price lifted off after that. That was quite fortuitous timing there. And so this one, I had a high of day target for my 2-to-1 ratio, so it was about 8. I was shooting for 8 to 12 points to the upside. I was going to continue to scale up into the high of day here. So I took off 2 contracts, and then the third one I held for a higher target and came back to stop me at break even. Then we jumped on the roller coaster, the JPAL roller coaster here, and FOMC minutes came out. Volatility spiked, and we saw price skyrocket rather aggressively up into the highs. I was definitely bullish based on the news that we had the 25 bips hike. Everybody was expecting that, and then We had Powell start to speak here, and he said things, not much of anything, to be honest. It was rather indecisive. There wasn't necessarily anything too hawkish, nothing too bearish or bullish, hawkish or dovish. So I was still okay with letting the market pull back to an area of interest to take long here. So I didn't try to approach these highs up here. I wanted to see this area of interest where we saw this initial move take place, and there was some nice buy volume and a bit of a shelf that had been established here. So this was my box that I painted. In hindsight, what critical piece was missing here is that we never saw very strong volume at this point. So I could say in hindsight, that's a bit of a mistake on my part. I did end up scaling in, and then price basically just did a total dump, and I got stopped out at my normal stop area. So once again, you win some, you lose some, but you keep your winners. You let your winners pay for your losers. So no big deal. Then we saw some very intense activity, a huge tape bomb, and extreme volume here. If we look at the volume for the day, look at this. So it is absolutely the highest volume of the entire day was put in here. I love to see that. That's what I missed right here. No volume, boom, get the volume in. We proceed lower, and then we come back up and we get this just good aggressive buying activity up here. So this area immediately became a key point for me. It's about 45.83. I was waiting to let things play out a little bit more because we were still very volatile. So we saw another large sell-off, and this is where I said the longs were on at this point for me. Is we saw this nice retracement. We got back up above this area of interest, and I was playing pretty tight with the stop loss management in this entire sequence here. I was taking starter contracts and carefully watching price action, and I actually got stopped at break even several points. This is just an example here where we dipped into this range. I got long again, waiting to see progress here to the upside. Never saw that progress, so I'd protect myself, exit the position again. And we had another dip lower. It looked like we may just start to totally crap out on the market. However, the VIX never got elevated, and the Qs were also holding their ground pretty well. So again, this is just added fuel to the fire, added confirmation when we test these lows and we immediately reject, and we now break the highs. It's very volatile, but I kept the same thesis of this 45.82 area. If we could continue to see some strength and some buying pressure applied here, that given that there wasn't anything overly bearish said by Powell, I was still thinking that we could very well rally here at the end of the day. So I, after a few more points of consolidation and continuing to kind of make progress on these lower lows, getting a bit higher every time, I decided to take a starter again here, and then saw a nice move up. I like to see that we had continuation up above this swing high up here, and then dip back down. I actually added to the position, and after this nice healthy push up, there was a bit of a stall, and considering the volatility, I did take profit. So this was 81 to nearly 91, so it was almost a 10-point move on that. And then this one was an 85 up to 92, so 7 or 8 points. I was really looking for a move up into this 96 range. The reason why is because we had this drop, so I was hoping to try to get up into here. I figured there's a high probability of a rejection once we entered up into this phase where we saw the sell-off initiate. So that's where 96 was kind of my target there. After I saw some larger volume come in and die out, I decided to exit that position there. So again, I didn't scale as many contracts, but the amount of points I got on those outweighed previous losses. So, ending the day green, not amazingly green, but decent for riding that roller coaster. So those are the trades I took, and just a little bit of additional insight into what I look for in terms of unusual activity that gives me the thesis that I use to put on a position. Everybody have a great night and happy trading.